Now to a Target 12 Investigators exclusive slow start. Taxpayers are on the hook for millions of dollars after Prime Providence real estate has not sold as quickly as predicted. It's been 10 years since the moving of Interstate 195 in Providence freed up land for development. The state spent tens of millions to buy the parcels with the pitch of constructing a district filled with science and education jobs.
Were the projections too optimistic?
I think they were way too optimistic.
Target 12 investigator Steph Machado has been tracking the progress and is in Providence now with her exclusive findings.
There are cranes in the sky here on the old 195 land, but plenty of parcels are still empty, and so far taxpayers have been left holding the bag to pay for the land. Construction workers in full swing building this apartment and grocery store development in Fox Point in Providence, set to open next year. The 1.5-acre lot is a small part of the curved swath of land in Providence that was once part of Interstate 195.
This prime piece of real estate that used to be 195 is estimated to be worth almost $50 million.
10 years ago, it looked like this after the Rhode Island Department of Transportation moved the highway, freeing up acres of land in Fox Point, the jewelry district, and downtown.
This is where the growth is. It's meds and eds, as they say.
Then Governor Lincoln Chafee and Rhode Island lawmakers envisioned a knowledge district of medical and education facilities that would bring permanent jobs to the new district. 2 parcels were initially sold to Johnson & Wales University. Then the state created the 195 Redevelopment District Commission to purchase, market, and sell the rest.
This is a plan of the 195 district parcels.
Of the 22 plots of vacant land made available by the commission, just 5 have sold. The Wexford Building, Chestnut Commons apartment building, and a loft hotel have gone up, while 2 other apartment buildings with retail are under construction. The rest of the parcels, roughly 9 acres, remain available.
I'm essentially bullish.
195 Commission Chair Bob Davis remains optimistic despite the level of progress made in the first decade.
So these things are not done quickly. You spend at least a few years getting the infrastructure right, like the whole road network here. Water, sewer, all those things had to be done first.
You're optimistic that the pace is picking up?
Yes, but it's a everyday effort.
There's no question the area has improved from those dirt lots. There's a new park on the river with a pedestrian bridge connecting the east and west sides of the district. But Senate President Dominic Ruggiero, a driving force behind the 195 Commission, is critical of the pace and direction of development.
It's been going slower than I expected. I anticipated that we would probably have more interest at this point in time by educational institutions and medical institutions down there. It seems like things have changed to more residential.
Indeed, several more apartment buildings are in the pipeline to be developed on parcels of the land, including the sky-high Fane Tower. But Davis argues there's still plenty of space for more life sciences.
This piece here we've set aside for non-residential use.
And then there's the debt. The 195 Commission floated a taxpayer-backed bond for $38 million to buy the land in 2013. Today, there's still $33 million in principal owed, plus more in interest. At the time, the Chafee administration anticipated there would be $43 million worth of land sales by now. The actual sales so far, $1.2 million.
We have to pay for that land, and we were going to use the money from the sales of the properties down there to pay that back. Obviously, we have a bill that's due, so we're going to have to pay to the general fund.
Were the projections too optimistic?
I think they were way too optimistic. Getting buildings built that are substantial, that create a lot of construction jobs and sort of further our mission really is the right focus, rather than holding out for purchase prices that frankly are not reasonable.
One parcel of the 195 land is still slated to host a 500-foot skyscraper known as the Fane Tower. I'll explain where that project stands after years of delays, coming up new at 6. In Providence, I'm Steph Machado, 12 News.
New details in a Target 12 investigators exclusive slow start. Taxpayers are on the hook for millions of dollars after land that was freed up from the moving of 195 has been slow to get developed. Now some are expressing frustration that the projects in the pipeline aren't what was originally promised. Target 12 investigator Steph Machado has been tracking the development for years and is here now with the latest.
There's no question Providence needs more housing, but some are critical of the influx of apartment building projects on land that was specifically purchased to create permanent jobs in science, medicine, and education. Buildings are going up on the curving swath of land that used to be Interstate 195 in Providence. What's now called the Innovation and Design District was, by law, aimed at creating thousands of jobs in so-called knowledge-based fields such as the life sciences.
This is where the growth is. It's meds and eds, as they say.
That dream has not yet materialized. 3 buildings have been built in the 10 years since the 195 Commission was formed to purchase, market, and sell the land. 2 more mixed-use apartment buildings are currently under construction for a total of just 5 sales.
There's no magic wand that can be waved. There's no snap of the fingers.
195 Commission Chair Bob Davis says he's optimistic, though it's been a challenge.
It's a everyday effort, and to try to attract certain kinds of users is a competitively difficult situation.
The next sale to close may be Parcel 9. Developer Penrose plans to build an apartment building with childcare and retail space.
But I'm hoping that we can get back on track and attract the wet labs and the meds and eds that we initially wanted to attract.
Senate President Dominic Ruggiero was the lead sponsor of the 2011 law that created the 195 Commission.
I'm kind of disappointed that it went so slowly.
The most controversial project is the proposed Fane Tower apartment building. In the making for 5 years, the developer is under contract to buy this plot of the former 195 land on Dyer Street, but the closing date keeps getting delayed.
We were somewhat troubled by his reaction to the pandemic. When you contrast it with the other developers with whom we were dealing, they never wavered.
Davis says the Fane Tower's current closing date is June of next year, a $3 million sale if it happens. New York developer Jason Fane has asked for repeated extensions, and a lawsuit from neighbors is still pending in the Rhode Island Supreme Court over the tower's soaring height.
At what point do you cut Fane loose and say we need to put this back on the market?
June 30, 22.
A spokesperson for Fane tells me the project is full steam ahead, with test borings drilled into the land this past spring, but he stopped short of committing to the closing date unless the Supreme Court decision comes down in Fane's favor before then. Despite the abundance of apartment and hotel projects being built or proposed, Davis says there's still a push to get life sciences.
This piece here we've set aside for non-residential use.
A new state health lab could come to the 195 land behind the Wexford building. The commission voted last week to offer the land for just $1. The sale prices so far on the land have ranged from $1 to $751,000. The 2 most recent parcels going for $100,000 apiece.
Is that sending a message to developers that they can get these parcels for a pretty good deal when they see the last 2 were sold for that amount?
We want to incentivize developers to develop. Are we more focused about getting building done, or are we more focused on selling land? And I think our mission is to get building done.
But originally, state officials did expect to make their money back on the land, projecting in 2013 they'd recoup $43 million in land sales by this year. The actual sales so far, $1.2 million.
Is that disappointing, or were the projections too optimistic?
I think they were way too optimistic.
The 195 Commission is currently considering selling this land I'm standing on, known for its annual sunflower blooms. 3 developers have submitted proposals for residential buildings on this plot. In Providence, I'm Steph Machado, 12 News.